Alright, hello. Welcome to my preview and predictions for UFC 390 and Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. We're going to get straight into it. This is probably one of, if not the best card of the year, in my opinion. Maybe the fights might not perform as well as I think they will, but on paper, these fights are bangers, and I know bangers. But, moving on, we're going to get straight to the prelims because I don't want to take too much of your time. Getting started. This fight just got cancelled. So, what I am going to do, I am going to put the new fights that were just added on screen. I hope I remember to edit them in. If not, the first fight of the night is going to be Idris Iblis versus Joseph Morales. I think that's how you pronounce it, or Morales. I don't know. This is the Ultimate Fighter finale, so there is some interest for me there. These might be future contenders. Who am I going to pick between Idris Iblis? I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm sorry. I can't see his name right now, so I can't really see how you spell it. But I'm going to go for Iblis. I do think I think he does have the edge when it comes to striking, and I think he'll be able to defend the takedowns of Joseph Morales. Morales has good submission game, but I think Iblis will be just too much on the feet, and we might see a war between these two. I'm going to go with Iblis, probably rounds 1 or 2, headshot dead KO, kind of like a spinning wheel kick or something like that. I can see something mad like that happening. But moving on. Karine Silva, her fight with JJ Aldrich just got cancelled. So, I am going to show the fight on screen probably about now. She's fighting Diane Barbosa. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I could be wrong. But Diane has beat Karine Silva before, and I think she'll do it again. I'm going to go with the underdog, Diane Barbosa. But I don't know how these two have evolved. I just feel like even Diane at the start of her career made pretty easy work of Karine Silva, so this is a more evolved version of both, so it's tricky to tell. But we're going to finally move on with the actual fights on the actual website. Brian Battle versus Nursultan Ruzabaev. Brian Battle is a tricky one to predict for this because he's fighting at middleweight. He normally fights at welterweight. And Nursultan Ruzabaev is probably one of the tallest middleweights, and he used to fight at welterweight, which is absolutely insane. Now, who do I think will win this fight? I think people are not accounting for the fact that Brian Battle has very decent submission game. He started his career off with a load of submissions. And I think this fight will showcase his ground game a lot more. I think he'll take this to the ground early. I don't think he's going to stand up and strike with such a tall, lanky striker with power. I think he'll instantly get this one to the ground and get like a guillotine or a rear naked choke. I can see that happening. If Wacky and Buckley can take this guy down, Brian Battle can. Moving on. I'm going with Brian Battle rounds 2 or 3 submission. Moving on. Edson Barbosa versus Dricus Close. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Don't quote me on this. This is a tricky fight to predict. Barbosa is a very old man. I think Close is older for some reason. I'm going to have to go Barbosa. You know, I have to trust that crafty unk skill that's been proved me right for the past few months. I'm going to have to trust the unkiest unk of all unks. I'm going to go Edson Barbosa rounds 2 or 3 KO, or TKO. Moving on. Chase Hooper versus Alexander Hernandez. This is a very good fight in my opinion. And I have high hopes for Chase Hooper. I think he looks very good. People were kind of judging him because he went a couple of rounds with Jim Miller and kind of struggled. But Jim Miller is like a really crafty vet. You know, really good grappler. And Chase Hooper beat him there. I have high hopes for Chase Hooper. I'm going to go Chase Hooper submission rounds 2 or 3. I can see him getting rocked by Hernandez. But I think he's improving every day. He's very young, improving every day. I think he'll get this one done. He'll get rocked in the feet early, try box back, maybe hurt Hernandez, and he'll get him to the ground, rear naked choke or an anaconda choke. Something like that. Moving on. This one I'm excited for. Rare I'm excited for a WMMA fight. But Lupin Godinez. Let me tell you something about Lupin Godinez. Probably one of the only UFC fighters ever to hit a standing powerbomb. Not a powerbomb off the floor like we've seen with Rampage Jackson and last week Elijah Smith. She picked her opponent off the ground while she was standing. You know, I have to pick that. We may see her powerbomb Jessica Andraj. I can see her out grappling Andraj. I think Andraj really wants to make this a standing contest. I think Andraj is a bit washed at the moment. I could see Lupin Godinez holding her down for 3 rounds. I'm going to go Lupin Godinez. Late submission or most likely a decision. But moving on. Gerald Meerschaert versus Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. I think that's how you pronounce his name. This is a tricky fight as well to predict. I predicted Oleksiejczuk last time to knock out Cedric Dumas. And I think Dumas is a bit chinny, so I don't really know how to score that. And I said I'd never pick Meerschaert again because this is one of those times because Oleksiejczuk, his weakness is grapplers. But he's so young, he may have fixed that problem. I really don't know who I want to go with here because I'm going to trust my gut. I'm going to go Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Probably rounds 1 or 2 KO. But if it goes to the 3rd round, we all know Meerschaert is mythical in the 3rd round. But I can see Oleksiejczuk catching him with something and putting him out. Gerald has taken a lot of damage over his last few fights. But moving on. King Green versus Diego Ferreira. Now this is also an UNC contest. I think Diego Ferreira is 40 years old. And King Green is physically 67. Am I gonna bet on King Green or Robert Green? Your name's fucking Robert, lad. Fucking Robert, lad. Yeah. I can't really pick King Green. I'm gonna go Diego Ferreira, probably KO. I do think a prime, 2 years ago, King Green could have won this fight. But I think he's taken a lot of damage in his last few fights. I'm going to go Diego Ferreira probably by fluky KO. Probably losing on points. And then gets a fluky KO. I think he can get that. Let me just see stats. Yeah, I can see him even taking King Green down, but yeah, I'm going to go Diego Ferreira. Moving on. Tim Elliott versus Kai Asakur. Now, this is an interesting fight. I can see Tim Elliott starting off on the feet and kind of just gauging where he is. And then I can see Asakur piece him up. And then I think Tim Elliott at the end of round 1 will probably try to shoot a couple takedowns. And that's the factor. I really don't know how great Kai Asakur's takedown defense is compared to lower level UFC fighters. I'm going to assume with the experience of fighting Pantoja, he's probably worked on it. I'm going to go Kai Asakur knockout rounds 2 or 3. Maybe a decision, but I see him KOing Tim Elliott in the 2nd or 3rd. I think he has that power. Tim Elliott is also very old for flyweight. But moving on. Jared Cannonier versus Michael Paige. Jared Cannonier is a tricky one. Because every time you say, oh, he's 40 years old, he's washed, he somehow gets a legendary performance. And he survived 5 knockdowns from Gregory Rodriguez to come back and win that fight in the 4th round. Michael Venom Paige is not Gregory Rodriguez. And I do think since Cannonier suffered so much damage in his last fight, I think he might be a bit chinny. I'm going to go Michael Venom Paige knockouts round 2 or 3. I don't see him KOing in 1st round, but I can see Cannonier having a very Kevin Holland-esque performance. And I'd mean that with no disrespect. When MVP fought Kevin Holland just mainly clinched. I can see Cannonier doing that, but I can see MVP kind of working out the clinch and then hitting a mad spinning tornado kick or something. Probably puts out Cannonier. But moving on. I'm going to go MVP rounds 2 or 3 KO. Jeff Neal versus Carlos Prates. Now, this is a very tricky one, because I don't know how good Prates' chin is. All I do know is that he has, like, hands like fucking boulder blocks. His style got shut down by, like, relentless high kicks in the Ian Gary fight. I don't know if Jeff Neal will do that, per se. I think he'll try box with Prates. I think that may lead to his downfall. I'm going to go Prates rounds 1 or 2 KO. But people forget, man, Jeff Neal also has that power, and I'm not fence sitting, okay? But I'm going to go Carlos Prates rounds 1 or 2 KO. This is probably going to not get... This is probably not going to go to the 3rd round. Moving on. Now, this is probably the second most interesting fight, because everyone is glazing Aaron Pico. The weight concept especially. I don't see the hype. I really don't. People are saying, oh, well, he has that power, man. So did Dan Ige. So did Josh Emmett. What did they do? I fully trust in my gut. Lerone Murphy will out-decision Aaron Pico. I'm going to go Lerone Murphy by decision, but I will not be surprised if Aaron Pico will be Lerone Murphy's first finish. I will not be surprised. Like, we see... I even see him out grappling Pico. Like, everyone's like talking about how he's training with Khamzat Chimaev. But you hardly... Pico is not going to get good practice, like, training with Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat's just going to be way too big for him. And it's going to be way too awkward. And, you know... I'm going Lerone Murphy. Probably a decision or late knockout or submission. I'm just going with the, like, trend of Patricio Pitbull, Patchy Mix... Those guys, you know, Michael Chandler, they're not doing so hot in the UFC. I know Pico's a young fella. Or a young fella, yeah. My Irish accent came out there. I know Aaron Pico is a young prospect. But I do see Murphy beating him, even though he's the unky or unk of the unks. He's both a young up-and-coming prospect and an unk. Amazing. Moving on. Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. The most interesting fight of the night. I am torn on this. I do not know who to pick. But one thing I will say. Everyone is underestimating how much Dricus can adapt in a fight. I think that's the thing people are missing. Khamzat Chimaev has amazing wrestling. Amazing wrestling, good power. But if it goes to the 2nd round, I'm not particularly saying Khamzat's cardio is going to be a problem here. The problem is how much Dricus can adapt. I'm going to go Dricus rounds 3 or 4 KO or submission. I can really see him adapting to Khamzat. If he survives the initial onslaught of Khamzat Chimaev, I have no doubt Khamzat will probably have better cardio than his last fights. But I can see Dricus just adjusting and kind of leaning into his strengths and trying to adapt to counter Khamzat's strengths. I can see Khamzat having a 10-8 round 1. Round 2 it's a 10-9 Khamzat. Then round 3 it's a 10-9 Dricus. And then round 4 Dricus finishes him. I can really see that happening. I'm going to go Dricus du Plessis, probably round 3 or 4 KO or submission. Probably more likely a KO. But moving on. That was the end of the pay-per-view. Yeah, great pay-per-view. Great guys. If you want me to cover the press conference, because we all know that's going to be fucking sensational, please let me know. Probably going to release that tomorrow or something if you want that. But that's been about it. See ya.